In the spring of 2022, a cryptocurrency that was advertised as being as steady as the dollar, that had the word stable in its category name, lost 99% of its value in less than a week. It took down a sister coin worth tens of billions, a so-called bank paying 20% interest, several hedge funds, two lending giants, and the savings of people on 6 continents. Roughly $40 billion evaporated in days. The panic it triggered erased hundreds of billions more across the crypto market. The man who built it had mocked his critics by name, called poverty a choice, and named his project after the Earth and the Moon. He ended up in a prison cell on the other side of the world from both. This is the story of Terra, Luna, and Kwon. Kwon Do-hyung was the model of the modern founder. Seoul-born, Stanford-educated, a stint as an engineer at Apple and Microsoft, fluent in the language of disruption. In 2018, he co-founded Terraform Labs to solve a real problem. Cryptocurrencies were too volatile to be money. No one prices coffee in something that moves 10% before lunch. The industry's answer was the stablecoin, a token pegged to one United States dollar. The honest way to build one is boring. Hold an actual dollar in reserve for every token issued. Kwon proposed something more elegant and far more dangerous, a stablecoin backed by nothing but code and confidence. His coin, Terra UST, held its $1 peg through an algorithmic seesaw with a second token called Luna. At any moment, one UST could be exchanged for exactly $1 worth of newly created Luna, and vice versa. If UST slipped below $1, traders could buy it cheap, redeem it for $1 of Luna, and pocket the difference. Buying pressure that restored the peg. The mechanism worked beautifully, with one catch: the white paper treated as a footnote. It depended entirely on Luna having value. The dollar in the machine was made of belief. If belief failed, the seesaw became a trapdoor. What made Terra enormous was not the mechanism, it was the interest rate. In March 2021, Terraform launched Anchor Protocol, a savings platform offering 19.5% annual yield on UST deposits, 20% on something marketed as a stable dollar at a time when banks paid essentially zero. The pitch traveled from crypto Twitter to kitchen tables in Seoul, Lagos, and London. People moved retirement funds into it. By early 2022, roughly $14 billion of UST sat in Anchor, 3/4 of every UST in existence parked there for the yield. The yield was not earned. Anchor's lending business generated a fraction of what it paid out. The difference was subsidized from Terraform's own reserves, which had to be topped up with hundreds of millions of dollars to keep the rate alive. It was a marketing expense dressed as interest, the cost of renting belief. Critics said the obvious: this is unsustainable. This resembles a Ponzi dynamic the peg has broken before. Kwon's response became his signature. He called critics poor on Twitter. He bet $1 million publicly on Luna's price. When an economist questioned the model, he replied, "I don't debate the poor." Luna's price went from under $1 to $119 in 18 months. At the peak, Kwon's coins were worth tens of billions, and the combined ecosystem approached $60 billion. He named his newborn daughter Luna. The moon was, briefly, the family business. Kwon knew the machine was fragile, and prosecutors later proved he knew. In May 2021, a year before the end, UST had already wobbled off its peg, and the algorithm had not saved it. The peg was quietly restored by a secret intervention. Kwon arranged for a high-frequency trading firm to buy massive amounts of UST behind the scenes. He then took the stage and credited the algorithm. Proof, he said, that the system self-heals. It was the load-bearing lie. Money flooded in on the strength of a stability that had, in reality, been purchased privately. In his eventual guilty plea, Kwon admitted exactly this deception. The end began on May 7, 2022, with large withdrawals from Anchor and a series of enormous UST sales into thin weekend liquidity. The peg slipped to 99 cents. Trivial, except that $14 billion of deposits were watching. The bank-run logic of this channel's other episodes applies doubly in crypto. There are no opening hours, no insurance, and no one to call. Withdrawals accelerated. UST fell to 95 cents, and the death spiral engaged. Redeeming UST minted oceans of new Luna. The flood of new Luna crashed Luna's price, which meant the next redemption minted even more Luna, which crashed it further. The mechanism designed to defend the peg became the engine of hyperinflation. In 1 week, Luna's supply exploded from 340 million coins to 6.5 trillion. Its price fell from over $60 to a fraction of 1 cent, a 99.99% loss. UST, the stable dollar, traded below 10 cents. Terraform's defense fund, billions of dollars of Bitcoin reserves assembled for exactly this scenario, was deployed into the crash and vanished without bending the curve. By May 13th, the blockchain itself was halted. $40 billion of Terra ecosystem value was gone, and the shockwave rolled outward through everyone who had treated UST or Luna as collateral. The hedge fund, Three Arrows Capital, collapsed. Lenders Celsius and Voyager froze withdrawals and spiraled into bankruptcy. The Contagion bled into the failure of FTX months later. On Korean forums, users posted goodbye notes. Authorities reported deaths. The losses were not abstractions. They were apartments, tuition funds, weddings. Kwon's response to the catastrophe was a proposal to relaunch the chain with new coins, which the remnants of his community actually approved, and then silence and motion. As South Korean prosecutors issued an arrest warrant and Interpol issued a red notice, Kwon left Singapore, surfaced nowhere, and insisted on Twitter that he was not on the run. "I am not hiding," he wrote, while no government on earth could locate him. The hunt ended in March 2023 in Podgorica, Montenegro, where he was arrested boarding a private jet with a forged Costa Rican passport in his luggage. He spent months in a Balkan jail on document charges while the United States and South Korea fought over his extradition like an unwanted inheritance. The Americans won. Extradited to New York at the very end of 2024, Kwon faced a 9-count indictment. The civil case had already gone badly. A jury found Terraform and Kwon liable for fraud in the SEC's lawsuit, and the company agreed to a $4.5 billion settlement and dissolved itself. In August 2025, Do Kwon pleaded guilty to conspiracy and wire fraud, admitting he had deceived investors about the 2021 PEG rescue. In December 2025, a federal judge sentenced him to 15 years in prison, more than prosecutors had requested, and ordered the forfeiture of over $19 million. South Korea still waits with its own charges. Luna, the coin, trades as a souvenir. Luna, the daughter, will one day read about her name. The post-mortems noted that algorithmic stablecoins had failed before, smaller seesaws with the same trapdoor, and that economists had described the death spiral years in advance in public with diagrams. Nothing about the collapse was unforeseen, it was merely unprofitable to foresee. 20% yield is an argument that wins every debate. Until the week it loses the only one that matters. Terra's white paper promised money that needed no government, no bank, and no trust. It delivered the oldest financial product in history. A promise that paid handsomely right up until everyone asked for their money back at once. The earth held, the moon fell. The poor, it turned out, were the ones who listened to him.